So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Political No Break, the podcast where we move past winner takes politics and into real conversation. And today I'm joined with the A team. I always call us the A team. Beth, Charlie, Kevin. We've all been here before. We've had great conversations. And of course, today's conversation is Iran. And I gotta say, we're getting enormous feedback on the social media outlets about our last conversation on Iran. And I literally just recently had a conversation that's going to be posted soon with Halil Zabibi, a young lady from Iran who's part of the, I guess you would say, the resistance to what the current governments have been for the last 50 years. And it was a great conversation. When it comes out, I'm going to send it all to you guys, and then we'll do another Iran session on her thoughts because they were really incredible. But let's just do our thoughts today. So here we are. We're in this war. We've got this defense secretary. Well, and he's now the secretary of war. It's no longer the Defense Department. It's the War Department, I guess you would say. And he comes on all like he's all flexed out and he's going to wage war with the whole world. We're at this 6 weeks. He assured us this would not be a never-ending war, and it seems like it's going to become a never-ending war. I mean, granted, 6 weeks is no gauge of what a never-ending war is a timeline for, but we're nowhere near fruition here. I mean, he can say we are, but anybody want to jump in from what I just said?
Well, I just think, the one thing, and it's not even just Iran, I'm sharing the same language with Cuba, that they're so resistant to admit, and I know why, obviously, because it brings too much of Iraq, but to use the term regime change, this denial that they're trying to affect, or they wanted, at least initially, to affect regime change, it's kind of ridiculous and it's counterproductive because that's what they want. I mean, the only other concrete thing they can actually say that aside from regime change is, well, we just don't want them to have the means to develop a nuclear weapon. But first of all, it's hard to disconnect those two things. And it's clearly what they want. And just like I said, I was watching this thing this morning in Meet the Press, the interview with the Cuban president there. I mean, and then the response from Byron Donaldson. I mean, they clearly want regimes change. I don't think there's any question about that.
And the question is, do people of Iran want regime change? My guess is to an extent, yes, but
I think so. But I don't think I don't know if they believe they can actually make that happen. Do the people believe that? I think that was the assumption, right? The hope anyway, going in this, that, that Trump and his people thought that we flatten their military, we degrade them to a certain point. The people will overwhelmingly see that. They will rise up. They will do the quote unquote dirty work for us and finish it off. Again, affecting regime change. And that just, it really hasn't happened.
I mean, where have we heard this before?
Well, that's why they're so afraid to say it, to use the term. It's like all their actions point towards what they're trying to do, the same thing that Bush was trying to do. But because that's so poisonous, and it's poisonous because Trump also helped make it poisonous. He ran on that. That was his biggest thing, right? That was what he was the first Republican to flat out talk about how much of a mistake Iraq was and Afghanistan was. So he's helped create that, the poisonous relationship to the term regime change. Yet that's where they're at. They just can't say it. But they say,
Charlie, your hand is blocking your screen. Charlie, your hand is blocking your screen.
Oh, sorry.
No, I hear you. Beth, what do you think?
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Go ahead.
So the opening salvo on what's going on with Iran, we're talking about regime change and whether or not the people of Iran want regime change, and the fact that we want it, but we're not talking about it as much, but it doesn't look like we're going to get it. What do you think about all that?
No, I agree 100%. I haven't heard a lot about the regime change. I know that taking out their leader, clearly they want regime change, or we do, but they're, they keep saying, they're giving that talking point. Like, this is not about regime change. Well, no, really, it clearly is, because we can't get what we really want with the leaders in place. And I don't think that we're in a good position to make any, advances to getting what we want with the current leaders and who are in place now. That's just not really into what they're saying on the news. I don't trust any of it, really.
That's why, Beth, and I hear you, and you shouldn't, in terms of Western media. What I recommend, seriously, is you all need to start checking out the credible geopolitical analysts who are outside of the United States, who cover world events. An example is Alexander Makuris, based in London, Greek background and stuff like that. And his podcast is the Duran, which is on YouTube. And you'll get a much more accurate, honest perspective of what is happening, okay? Because there has been a lot of coverage, real coverage, truthful coverage, verifiable coverage, which indicates that basically Israel had convinced President Trump that if we decapitate the leadership of Iran, if we kill their leadership, right, that the government will fall and that the people will rise up and replace them. And that they would then provide a government that would be pro-Western, pro-Israel, right? Okay. The funny thing about it is this was the same bullshit argument position that we had going into Iraq, that they would greet us as liberators, right? And that turned out to be untrue. What has actually happened, and we have killed their leadership, much of their leadership, and continue to threaten their leadership, right, is that it's only hardened the Iranian support for their leaders. And so now their leaders the replacement leaders actually appear in public with thousands of Iranians to demonstrate how the Iranians support their government. So the government has not weakened. They proved to be resilient. And what's worse about this whole strategy is that this was the stated strategy for quite a long time. So Iran knew this and got prepared for it. Okay, so that's the first thing. But let's back up from Coach and Charlie and Beth from this actual point, because this has been what we've been trying to do. And let's ask the question, the fundamental question, right? Because how would we feel about these interests? The idea that we as one country are targeting killing another leadership of another country and engage in whether or not we should overthrow their government on behalf, even if we say it's on behalf of their people. Is that what we would want? How would we respond if other leadership, if Russia, if China was looking at the United States, looking at the economic problems in the United States, looking at how the establishment in the United States has abandoned the American people and said, you know what, we need to overthrow the American government and help the American people take sovereignty back, right? Look, because this is what we're saying, and we're saying it, and we do it openly in public, right? Who the hell are we? We need to mind our own damn business. It's not our place. And the idea that we put our soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen and women, right, at risk over what? The national security of the United States is not at stake. This is not how we're supposed to be using our military. As a veteran, I cannot express enough contempt for the Department of Defense, for Hegseth, for Trump, for using they're not the only ones. We've been doing this for 30 years, right? Using our military for these kind of shenanigans is not why they signed up. They signed up to defend the national security interests of the United States. It is not in our national security interest to go to war with Iran. There is no basis for it, right? This is vigilantism. We are violating international law. We are engaging in war crimes, and we're doing it openly. This is lawlessness, right? On what basis are we doing any of this?
I agree.
Certainly not the
100%.
law.
I agree 100%. And it makes you look back at that change, which just seems silly and childish, changing the name from Department of Defense to Department of War. But really, that was more symbolic, going with what you're saying. I mean, yeah, they did that ridiculous change, but then they really acted on it. That they really acted like the Department of War. It wasn't about defense anymore. It was about actively starting and prosecuting a freaking war. And I agree. I think we have national security interests in one respect, but I don't think we have the right, even no matter how many terms you want to describe this regime as despicable and hated. I mean, it's one of the most consistent things that you hear across every political spectrum in countries. That yes, it's an awful regime. It's an awful regime. Yes, but I still don't believe we have the right to go into a sovereign country, assassinate leaders, and force on them what we believe is the correct way to go about your business as a country. I think that's a bad precedent. And I guess we were doing it a lot. I don't like the fact that it's more open than ever, that it's becoming accepted as opposed to, it was awful when it was happening, even though they were lying about it, but at least they were trying. They weren't trying to make it acceptable, make it, make the country accept this is what we're really doing. And that's a big difference. It seems cynical, but it is a big difference. So I couldn't agree with more with everything you just said.
I think I absolutely agree with Kevin. There's a lot to unpack there. The fact that we present the premise that we're doing this so Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon. So let's just be clear. We have other countries that do have nuclear weapons and almost the capability to attach them to missiles like North Korea. Okay, so we go in there and we say we're doing this for national security. There's 2 points here. One, their nuclear missiles can never reach the U.S. at this point. The second thing is Netanyahu has led the U.S. administration by the nose to go in there and do the heavy lifting. Like I was telling Kevin before, America's at 120% debt GDP ratio. Israel's at 60%, yet and still we're paying the whole bill for this war. Here and there, Israel is sending out some jet fighters and sending out some bunker bust, but it's our bunker busting bombs. It's not really even their technology. And again, we're in this business of war. America has been in this business of war for 50 years, not 30 years, 50 years, and it's bankrupted us. We're at $40 trillion in debt. It's all about war. It's all about one war after another. We're losing our soldiers. We keep presenting these options like it's the only way to do things, and it's not working. And when do we reverse it? And Pete Hegseth and his outstanding leadership has made it clear it's no longer the Department of Defense. Now we're just in the business of war. We're in the Department of War. We're going to wage war wherever the hell we want. We're going to liberate Venezuela. We're going to liberate Cuba. The world doesn't want to be liberated by us. There is some fractions in every part of the world where if we intervene and we decimate the government, they rise up. What happened in Iraq was just that. They rose up, and what rose up was ISIS. What's going to rise up from Iran? Well, do we even know what we're getting ourselves into? Is there any way to even speculate on what we've engaged in and what it will result in?
I would analogize the economics of war like the casino. The casino doesn't care who wins or who loses, right? The casino wins regardless of who wins or loses, because the casino is getting a slice on both sides, right? Okay, take a look at these wars over the last 50 years. The United States don't fight these wars to win. Why? Because winning is not necessary. The only thing that's necessary is that we keep fighting. Because who's benefiting from this? The American taxpayer gets the bill, but the profits go to private organizations, private military contractors, private, the military industrial complex. This is running the economics through military action, right? And so, yes, it is most obvious over the last 34 years, because if you take a look at federal debt in 1992, after 216 years of American existence, U.S. existence, we had $4 trillion in debt. And now we are over 39 trillion. You're right? $35 trillion in debt in 34 years. And when you look at where did that money go, right? It went to create the greatest, wealthiest billionaire class ever. How? Because this is how extreme wealth is looting the federal treasury. You talk about how much we're paying versus Israel, this and that. Yeah, we, the taxpayer, are paying it, but the benefit of that spending is going to private organizations. It is driving wealth, right? They are profiting from this, right? So they don't care that we can't defeat Iran. They don't care. Israel uses the Samson option, which says if they're not successful against Iran and Iran keeps on pounding them, which they are pounding them, right? Israel says they will not take a conventional defeat. They will use the nuclear weapons that they have in their possession that we gave them back in the 70s, and they will attack Tehran, right? These people don't care if there's a nuclear attack, because guess what? They already are lined up for the reconstruction of Iran. And if Israel gets destroyed, they're already prepared for the reconstruction of Israel, because the money is now in how you fight the fight, in arming up for the fight, and in the reconstruction for the fight. They've privatized all of this, right? And so, this is how they win. It doesn't matter who wins or who loses. So America hasn't won a war since World War II, full stop. And yet we keep on doing this. It's not because they're stupid. It's because they benefit even when we lose. 20 years in Afghanistan. The Taliban was running Afghanistan before they got there. The Taliban was running Afghanistan after they got there. A week after we left, our $600 billion, our $1 trillion worth of training and military arms that we trained a 600,000 person army handed over to the Taliban after 20 years. Yeah, that level of it, that's not incompetence. That's the strategy. Because guess what? All that is paid for and in someone's profit, and we are left holding the tail. So this is where we are, and this is what's happening right now.
The fascinating thing, when you mentioned the Taliban, the fascinating thing about the Taliban is after we allegedly decimated their abilities, now you look at the Taliban, who was a ragtag pack. They're well dressed. They're extremely well dressed. They're governing. They have departments of economics. And I mean, when you look at them, they're no longer dressed in clothes you wouldn't wear to work in your garden. They're well dressed. I mean, granted, it's a garb they pick, but they're extremely educated as well. And everything we argued still stands in place in Afghanistan. The fact that young girls couldn't learn how to read is still in place in Afghanistan.
Yes.
The fact that we,
the fact that we, never about that, Coach.
Right, it's never about that. And when we showed videos, when we showed propaganda, and it's not propaganda, I'm not saying it in any way, shape, or means, but when we showed videos of a child saying, I know what an elephant is, I know what a rhino is. How do you know that? Because I know how to read. And some Taliban covered and shoots her in the head for knowing how to read. That hasn't changed. And then comes the lambasting of, and I'm not a fan of Biden, but for just calling bullshit and just pulling the troops out. You know what? I think that was one of the great presidential decisions ever made. It's enough. Obama promised to pull the troops out of Afghanistan, and he added 40,000 troops and won the Nobel Peace Prize after making such a grand decision. I mean, come on. How does the world think? How do we continue to convince people of all this?
So we have news this morning, and it's important news, and it's relating to the war in Iran. So President Trump has announced, and it's being reported on all the news networks, that he's ordered the U.S. Navy to blockade the Straits of Hormuz. So let us talk about the implications of that. Okay, so let me just set it up. The way, and Iran has always had this advantage. The Strait of Hormuz, 20% of the oil and natural gas and pesticides, the fertilizer that we use for our food system, global food system, a large percentage of that goes through the Straits of Hormuz. The Straits of Hormuz borders the Iranian coast is on one side of that. And so Iran has always had the capacity to control the straits. All this time while we vilified them, they have never done that. But they've always had the capacity. What they said is that if we attack them, this is one of the things they're going to do. Right. They can't defeat the United States, as in project into the United States and hit U.S. cities and stuff like that. Right. But if the United States attacks them, what they can do is that they can bring down the global economy by shutting down the Straits of Hormuz. And that's been the big advantage that they have, is that this is forcing Europe. This is forcing Japan and Asia, all our allies, South Korea. This is forcing the rest of the world to say, what the hell are we doing? Right? This is the pressure that America is getting back because Iran is successfully and had successfully shut down the Straits of Hormuz. Okay, so now we are responding today. We sent the vice president there. They had the long talks. It didn't go the way they wanted it because they still don't accept the fact that Iran is in position to dictate the terms, right? Okay, so now they want to blockade, to use the United States Navy to say, oh, okay, if the rest of the world can't get their oil to go through the Straits of Hormuz, neither can the friends of Iran, because Iran doesn't need oil. Iran has oil, right? Okay, so now we're talking about blockading India, China, from getting their oil. That's what we're doing now. Okay, that's what we're announcing. And we're going to see how well that is, because now the global oil markets will explode tomorrow morning. You think you don't have $5 a gallon in Florida yet. We have it out here in Washington State. I can guarantee you we're going there, right? Because now U.S. Navy is blockading the Straits of Hormuz. What do you all think? How do you think that's going to play out?
I
Go
had some rumors that we were blending or mixing ethanol with our regular gas now to make it go further, or as a cheap.
Yes, we've been doing that. Yes, that's true. But that's what we've been doing. We have been
This
doing.
is nothing new.
No, it's not new. And these are ways of stretching and making it more efficient and all this other stuff. Yes, and you can see, if you go to your gas station, you can see they're required under state and federal law to
Right.
save the blend.
Right, the ethanol, the 87, 89, yeah.
Yeah, right.
They're not mixing more. I mean, like with fertilizer being more expensive, with gas being more expensive. Now we're looking at a longer term issue because, with using ethanol for our gas, farmers, when they're looking at what they're going to grow for the next season, if it's going to be corn from ethanol, or if they have enough fertilizer for that, maybe they won't grow as much, or maybe they won't be able to grow that crop. Or so like
That's
we're looking, much further than just gas prices now. Like I don't see our gas prices going back to what they were ever prior to this, ever.
I mean, it really did. Okay, so now that's interesting. Charlie, what do you think? In terms of using the U.S. Navy to blockade any ships? So Iran was letting friendly ships go through. Iran is controlling ships.
I just read it this morning before we started talking. It's such a desperate move. You can see what they think they're going to get out of it. They think they're going to force the rest of the world, right, to engage and force Iran to move towards where we want them. And that's obviously the motivation. I don't think it's going to work. I think you're right. The oil markets are just going to absolutely explode tomorrow because, even if this plan of theirs has the ability to get some of what they want, in the meantime, it's, like I said, the pain is going to be so harsh that, again, I don't think they can, or any of us really can predict exactly how that's going to play out. But it's not going to be something so simple like, oh, now we all have to pay the price. So now we're all going to jump on the American side and we're going to force Iran to, just give up all their nuclear ambitions and walk away, and we'll have this democracy in the Middle East. I mean, it's so silly. I mean, that's clearly nothing like that is going to happen.
I think it's important, Charlie and Beth and Coach, and I want to hear what your thought is on this question, is that, yes, the world is feeling pain, but the issue that the world already sees that we don't get in our Western media is that America and Israel are the aggressors here, that we have no legal basis for attacking Iran. It'd be one thing if Iran was doing something that justified us attacking them. Then the world would have a reason to come on our side. The problem is the rest of the world sees this for what it is. This is no different than what we did in Venezuela with Maduro, right? We have set out, Israel has talked about this for 20 years and has set out to kill the leadership of Iran, overthrow their government, and install a pro-Western, pro-Israeli government in Iran. That's our interest. And that interest is not that Europe is not sacrificing. This is why Spain, this is why our allies are peeling off. No one is willing to sacrifice what Iran is making them to sacrifice in order to allow Israel and the United States to do what they're doing. Because if you do, you could be next. It's a
total misunderstanding of what NATO represented as well. Like,
yes.
The idea of NATO was they're our buddies in a bar fight. No matter what we do, the idea of NATO is to back us. I'm like, no, it's not. It's to counter aggression towards us. Respond to aggression, as NATO did. The one time that charter was invoked, right, was 9/11, right? That was the one time NATO did what NATO was designed to do, and those countries did it. They may not do it to the extent that makes certain people administrate an army, but they did it. But that's what it's built for. It's not for if we pick a fight, everyone has to join us. And I think Trump truly believed that's what NATO was. He saw it as like this bully in a bar perspective of like, these are my boys, and if I start something, they got to back me up. And I think Spain has been the most clear on that when they're like, we're not involved. This isn't justified. We didn't say it was justified. And if we don't think it's justified and you haven't been attacked, and we're not getting involved. And I think that's pretty much been across the board. All the NATO countries had to some degree said that. And I think
The
they're right
UK,
to say
they will not participate. But so exactly. So but here, so the markets are going to blow up tomorrow. Literally, when the oil tankers that are supposed to be going to India, and the oil tankers that are supposed to be going to China, the US Navy is going to seize them, is going to attack them, is going to stop them. You are now going to war against India and China now. This is what that is. Let's just be clear, right? It is not India and China saying, oh, okay, you got us, and now we're going to come on your side, because they recognize that we are wrong here and that Israel is wrong here, right? So I'm telling you, this is an insane approach, right? An escalation approach. And to the extent that it involves further attacks on Iran, Iran is in position to destroy 60% of the globe's oil supplies. They will destroy the Saudi oil fields, the UAE, the Kuwaiti oil fields. But why? Not because those people have allowed the United States and Israel to do what they're doing. And that will collapse the global economy. I mean, right. So the globe is recognizing this reality. And oh, by the way, this is a huge advantage to Russia. Because Russian oil, we have removed the sanctions on Russian oil. Sanctions are now
this is it's a freaking dream come true for Putin. I mean,
oh my God. J.D. Vance literally told Europe the reason you have an oil crisis is because you're not buying Russian oil. I mean, he literally mouthed the words. I mean, this is how a vice president.
You have the own throat on our behalf. I mean, okay, but enough people are recognizing that. So let's get into, to me, none of this makes sense. And so, yes, the argument could be like Coach Trippy often makes, is that, Trump is a crash dummy. He's a complete fucking idiot. And therefore, this is why he does these things. And I've been honing my skills as the Trump whisperer. And so I have a new theory that extends on our conversations in the past. So we used to talk about last year, remember when we would talk about the tariffs and we were talking about how he was reversing globalization and the tariffs were the way by raising the costs of US multinational corporations to build their products cheaply elsewhere and then sell them back into the United States. And if you raise the cost, they have to pull their manufacturing back. Okay, that was the strategy. And I said the Supreme Court would overturn his ability to do it because he needs congressional authority to be able to impose these tariffs. He can't use emergency authority. And the Supreme Court did reverse. And I said, okay, he already has the votes in the Senate and there are twist arms in the House and they get it done. And that has not happened. And so what is he doing? In my opinion, Trump, that was last year. He found the limits of presidential authority. The Supreme Court is drawing lines. And now when he went to negotiate the deal with Congress to get them to give them the authority he wanted, the strings that they were imposing on it, he found to be unacceptable. So he has not pressed to get Congress to give him the tariff authority. So what does that do? That, as far as he's concerned, the Congress is no longer his ally. And so he doesn't give a shit about the midterm elections because the Congress with majorities are not giving him what he wants. So he's like, oh, okay, I'm going to punish you because now I'm going to exercise my authority without you. And yes, you're the ones who are going to re-election. I'll never go to re-election again. So F you, right? And what am I doing now? Now I'm the commander in chief. I'm the unitary executive. This is a page out of George W. Bush's page, right? I'm going to go get Maduro. I'm going to claim the Venezuelan oil. I'm going to bring the oil companies in to negotiate over what we're going to do with Venezuelan oil. I'm telling the new leadership in Venezuela, you're next. If you think what we're doing Maduro is okay, you're going to get that too. They've already capitulated. And now he's gone to 2.0, which is this. Okay, I think if you look at how he's tried to deal with Israel, he did try to negotiate and get them to settle Gaza much more than Joe Biden did. That's the first thing his administration did, is get a ceasefire in Gaza, right? But he's been unable to get the Israelis off that, right? Beyond the ceasefire, it's just a slow death, slow torture. They violate the ceasefires. Okay, so I think he's decided, fine, Israel wants us to attack Iran. Let's give them what they want. Why? Because his intelligence already tells him. I think he did listen to Tulsi Gabbard. I think he does recognize it wasn't going to work. But guess what? America can survive this. America can survive this. Who can't survive this? How do you break the control that Israel has over the United States? You give them what they want. So we are attacking Iran. And guess what? Our intelligence says it wasn't going to work. They told us some bullshit about how it was going to work. Decapitation. Iran collapses. You install a new government. It has not worked. Iran is not only hardened their support in their country, they are pounding Israel. And what happens is, by the end of this, however this goes down, the United States is going to wind up out of the Middle East, right? One. Two, Israel is going to be completely isolated. It will break our relationship with Israel, because guess what? We're already setting up that the failure was because Israeli intelligence and Netanyahu convinced the president to do this. They already setting up Israel to be the fall for why this didn't work out. Okay, so what I'm saying to you is, this is him. How he's going to build his legacy is, Congress is not my friend. I'm going to build it on executive orders. And part of this is breaking the relationship, the control that Israel has over the United States. And I think that's what he's doing.
Well, let me unpack three things you just said, and I'm going to give the floor to everybody else. There's three things you just said. First of all, Charlie had mentioned Trump's misunderstanding of the NATO alliance. Let me just call it that. His first role as president, he went to the German chancellor and gave her an invoice for security, protection. Okay, and it was explained to him. It's scary that the president had to understand, we do not provide protection. It's an agreement that the NATO allies spend 4% on their GDP on national defense, and ultimately, when a problem arises, we band together. Not when we decide to go to war do we band together, when a problem arises. That's Trump's clear misunderstanding of NATO from the beginning. And the minute he realized it wasn't a gangster operation, he lost all interest. The second thing he lost all interest in, he's made it clear, he's lost all interest in his three nominees to the Supreme Court because they haven't seen things his way. And the Congress hasn't seen his way. So the minute you go, like Hillary Clinton said, that you're his best friend until you disagree with him, and then he sues you. It's essentially how he ran business, and that's essentially how he runs government. So there should be no surprises to the things he's doing now as president, because he's been doing them as a businessman all along. Now comes the reality that allegedly, the Gaza Strip was another thing I just want to unpack real quick. Rabin always intended the Gaza Strip to be a classic example of be careful what you ask for, you may just get it. Appendix after appendix within the Camp David Agreement, it calls for the West Bank being the Palestinian state. It clearly states that the Palestinian state will be established in the West Bank. Since that agreement, Netanyahu especially, but most Israeli governments, other than probably Shimon Peres, have built settlement after settlement within the West Bank, negating the fact that the West Bank will ever be the Palestinian state. The more settlements you build, the more you have people. What happened in the Sinai, with people literally being sprayed with foam to get out of that area, is not going to happen in the West Bank. They're shrinking the size of the West Bank to the point where if it is ever established as a Palestinian state, it won't be much of a state at all. It won't be much of a territory at all. So as far as that goes, the world has always had this alternate agenda, and Trump is the crash dummy of it all. It's the compliance it's him implementing the crash dummy effect of it all. He's the only one dumb enough to be the crash dummy of it all. Other presidents have called bullshit here and there. None of them are any better than Trump. I'm not knocking Trump. I love a president that swings the bat harder than anybody. But the fact of the matter is, he is the crash dummy of the ultimate $1 trillion crash dummy of them all. So I'm just saying, those three things I unpacked: his misunderstanding of NATO, the idea that we were ever going to establish a Palestinian state has come to fruition with this war, that we're never going to do it unless literally we really lose something that's important to us. The fact that there was an agreement that that the Arab oil, OPEC oil, would only be traded in US dollars. Then Iran made it clear, if you want the Strait of Hormuz, we'll give it to you as long as you trade the oil in Chinese yuan. Now he's suddenly saying, if you're willing to go to that, we'll block those ships. We're in a quagmire here. That's my only point here. How do we get out of this quagmire? How do we undo the Trumpster? And the point is now, like you're saying, when he's lost all allegiance to the Congress, he's lost all allegiance to the Senate, he's probably going to lose the House for sure. I mean, there's only a 2-vote majority. I mean, in the Senate, there's an idea that the fulcrum will be the independents, but the fact of the matter is the independents will caucus with the Democrats if they are the fulcrum. So he will lose the Senate. If not, if ultimately there's not even a majority of Democratic senators elected in this next midterm, he's pissed.
Well, I think the big problem, and what one of the things that makes Trump so different than I think just about any president in living memory, is that normally, no matter which side you're on, the midterms would normally have influence on what a president does. But he does not care about anything in terms of the longevity of the Republican Party, anything beyond his own nose, right? He only sees himself in this. And so the balancing that midterm election would normally have is not going to happen with this president. And I agree with Kevin there that I think that's where it ends in terms of his planning. I don't give him credit for having any idea beyond that. I think that's why we're going to have such a problem getting out of this, is not only did we not have any idea why we're going in, there's never been an idea how we get out. And the only move he's left that he has the power, as the unitary executive, is to just go further. And I don't think he's doing that with some sly plan of just somehow isolating it. I don't think he looks that far ahead, but he definitely does not care about the midterms. And so that would normally somehow, I would think, kind of balance the issue, at least push him in a different direction. But I don't think it will. And I don't think he gives a rat's ass if the entire party goes down in flames, midterms, next election, what have you. He doesn't think beyond himself. So, that's a huge problem. I don't think, I don't see any viable exit strategy at this point. I just don't see how that would possibly work, other than cutting and running, other than him just making up some excuse to say it was a victory, walking away. But again, that's a huge problem in itself, because what do we, it's like we're going to have ISIS times 10 in terms of a country that's so much bigger, that has so much power already installed in it, that if outside influences are allowed to go in there and take control, my God, now we're talking, like I said, we're talking a steroid juiced up ISIS, and whatever we leave in the wake of the destruction of this giant country. So I couldn't tell you other than, and I agree that starting Monday, the world economy is in for a freaking tailspin.
Yes.
I completely agree. I do, however, think that with this war in Iran, I think Trump hasn't had a chance to really worry about the midterms that much, although there have been a lot of moves to sort of get into like seizing the ballots and, gerrymandering districts and stuff at the last minute and trying to take control of, voter rolls and stuff. So I believe he's still worried about the midterms. He just doesn't have time to openly talk about it. I mean, I don't think he cares about the Republican Party. Don't get me wrong. I just think that he is worried about the midterms more so for himself.
When we have these discussions about what Trump is doing, we are debating about what his intent is. What is his motivation? What is his basic strategy? And because of it, I think it's important that we all recognize that there's no way for us to know this. I don't know this. So that gives us a privilege. We can take a position and then we justify our position. So what I'm asking each of you to do is, yes, if you assume he's an idiot, if you assume he doesn't understand, then everything that the three of you say makes sense. Okay. But since we can't know if that's true, and I don't know, because my position is the other position that he does know what he's doing. Okay. Take for a moment a consideration. Let's say he does know what he's doing. How would you explain what he's doing? Because this is what I'm saying. Both those possibilities are possibilities, and we can't know which one is right. The reason why I say it is wrong to say he doesn't know what he's doing is because this is how people have underestimated him since he appeared, back in the 90s, right? And he has continued to prove people who underestimate him wrong. He keeps on defeating the people who underestimate him. Believe me, remember back in 2016, the Clintons were advocating for Trump over on the Republican primary side because he was the opponent they wanted. And then he turned around and defeated them. I'm just saying.
Well, let's
to
hope
you,
so. Let's hope
Yeah,
so,
no.
right? Let's hope that he has that.
Yeah,
that
I
Yeah.
agree. Like, I hope he does have some idea. I just couldn't in a million years figure out at this point what that would be, because every move seems to make the previous one, it's worse than the previous one. Each step has been absolutely, other than obviously we have the strongest military, very effective military. I mean, we did effectively more than I even imagined we could. Wiped out their air defense, flattened their, just took out their Navy in a half a minute, it seems, really defanged them in terms of real military, any type of real military power outside of their own country. In that perspective, that was success. But
Yeah,
again,
I push back on that.
I don't see whatever the plan was after that.
Charlie, I push back on that. We didn't knock out their air defense.
Well,
In fact,
we can do a lot more than I imagined. Like, I mean,
Technologically,
they're shooting down they're shooting down F-16s, F-15s. I mean, I mean, we can't fly over Iran. They caused our aircraft carrier to back away. Yeah,
we
the
can't fly over
fires
any
on board.
airspace over there. Nobody wants us
yeah.
in their airspace.
They
So
knocked
if
out
we haven't even
our
done
air
that, then we
defense.
haven't accomplished anything, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. If you go check, Charlie, I want you to check it out. They knocked out our air defense. They've destroyed every one of our bases in the Middle East. They have destroyed every one of our bases. They caused the U.S. military to abandon the military bases in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait. I'm just saying, if you go check it out, you have to get away from Western media.
Okay, so then I'm wrong. I'll accept that I'm wrong in that. So then, in that case, I don't know what we achieved at all. That it's zero.
Well, I'll say this. He profiteers from disaster. People point out over and over again, he's an awful businessman. He filed bankruptcy 5 times. And it's funny to me because, they talk about his casinos. He was driving trucks to Trump steaks to the casinos, and the restaurants weren't doing no business. But he was sucking in the cash from the sales of Trump steaks and Trump's bottled water. So he has profiteered from bankruptcies over and over. And so as far as, is this the disaster that he's profiteering from? I don't know anymore. I mean, we had this conversation with Diana Colleen, how much money does billionaires need? I don't know, but he is profiteering from these disasters. It has to be. I mean, he's shutting down America. It used to be a president's report card was the price of gas. When Biden got gas to $3 a gallon, there was stickers on the pumps. Biden did that. Okay, we're literally nearly $5 a gallon, and somehow he deflects any criticism. This isn't his fault. This is all part of national security. We're only paying our share to a future better world. No, we're not. And as far as our incredible military and the incredible technology that we've developed, it's okay to say we can squash any military in the world, but we can't squash any ideology in the world. When you've literally sent a bomb over and it decimates a family's child, you're done with that family for the rest of history. You've created an enemy for the rest of history. So as far as our success stories in the military, as far as our ability to portray war as a success, I've made it so many times often and I'm repetitive and I understand that. But the Vietnam War was so unpopular because it was the first time war was televised. We learned how to televise war. But what we haven't learned is whether we portray it to the American people as a great success story, somebody lost their child. Somebody lost their aunt. Somebody lost their grandma. They're our enemies for life. And when we look, this is a book I consider the Bible. The War is a Racket by General Smedley Butler. It's all about, he says it in the first few sentences, and I'm just going to read the first few sentences because Trump is the purveyor of this. War is a racket, it always has been. It's possibly the oldest, easily the most profitable, surely the most vicious. It's the only one in international scope. It is the only one which profits are reckoned in dollars and losses are in lives. The dollars go to the billionaires, not the American people. The lives are lost to the families of soldiers, to the people he calls suckers and losers. But yet and still, he is revered by those same people that he calls suckers and losers. Yet and still, I forget his first chief of staff. It was a general. For some reason, my memory goes, who was his first chief of staff? General
Kelly?
Huh?
Kelly?
Kelly, who lost his son in Afghanistan, and they call him a Gold Star family. And General Kelly is the one that said he called them suckers and losers. His own son was called a sucker and loser for dying in Afghanistan. And I don't understand the reverement. I don't understand the dedication. I don't understand it. And I will ask the question over and over again. We all want the captain of the ship to get the ship to port, but this guy isn't getting the ship to port. This guy isn't even on the ship. He's going to sink the ship, and everybody's going, he's the greatest for fucking us all over.
So I can tell you this much. I've never met a person, never knew a person who personifies, how the sausage is made. The notion of how the sausage is made is that it's often messy. It's often nasty. It's often awful. But then you have a sausage and it tastes good, right? So you don't want to know the details, right? Trump is transparent. Whether you talk about all those business, all those bankruptcies, all the fact, right? When it comes out the other side, Trump wins. Okay. He benefited from all those bankruptcies. He benefited from the failed casinos. He benefited from the TV show, The Apprentice. He benefited from, lifestyle and the rich and famous. He benefited from everything he's done. He benefits, from being president of the United States, profits more than any president has ever profited while being president, literally charging the taxpayer for foreign leaders to stay at his hotels, for the Secret Service to stay at his hotels, on and on. Okay. So once again, yes, it's a pulp fiction. All of this does not make sense. And yet he's benefiting from it. That's the North Star for him. He finds a way that he benefits from it. And so here we are again. We, though, have to deal with the reality that what he's sowing. And the reality we're talking about is this war with Iran. And as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of interesting. I think he's threading a needle. The blockade is not him launching missiles against Iran again, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how Iran responds to this. In my opinion, if it's true, the enforcement of the blockade is going to put the United States in crosshairs with the rest of the world. That's what it's going to do, right? With the world who stands with Iran, China, India, other nations, and are allowed, who pay the $2 million and are allowed to send their ships through the Straits of Hormuz, right? If the United States Navy is going to stop that from happening, let's see how that plays out, right? But what I'm saying here is that this is what we need to consider. How is that going to impact us? We are steadfastly heading to famine when it comes to this, what's happening in the Straits of Hormuz, because it's going to impact our food supply. We're talking about natural gas and oil pricing that we have not seen. That we've not seen. I mean, this is worse than the two OPEC embargoes in 71 and 79, that quadrupled a gallon of gas from 25 cents in 1970 to over $1 in 1980, right? This is worse than that. So I'm curious to hear where you all think this is leading us.
I'm going to tell you this, where I think it's leading us is like you said, Trump profiteers from everything, right? And then comes the vendetta part. He hates everybody. Vengeance is his key driver in life. Revenge. Democrats waged war on him when he wasn't a sitting president, and his revenge is that. But he's also, like you said, he can't stand the Congress anymore. He can't stand the judges he appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court, and probably even the judges he appointed locally. I don't know how he feels about them. Generally, the U.S. Supreme Court is the fulcrum, is the focus, and so he can't stand those three. And it's just incredible to me, the vengeance and the vendetta he has for everybody, but nobody sees it. And it's just incredible to me that but what really concerns me is I think in the midterms, the Democrats will take over. And what really concerns me is, first of all, and the Democrats coined what he's doing, the profiteering, the billions. They called it grifting. And grifting is generally, the definition of grifting is meant to be nominal. It's meant to be small. They consider the billions he's stealing small. And my biggest concern is now that the Democrats see how it's done, it's kind of like sending a young person to prison. They meet real criminals and they become better criminals. Now that the Democrats have seen what he got away with, they're going to get away with more. And that's my biggest focus, because I have just seen the Democrats, when they finally get in a position of power, they really drive the family car in the ditch. And it was kind of like the whole Obamacare thing when they said, we wish we didn't have a majority in the House and Senate. Then we really could come to an agreement on a health care bill. And it's because they just wanted universal health care and a public option and all these things. And ultimately, Obamacare came out as like a compromise. But I just see the Democrats being even more aggressive, obviously in the other direction, than this guy is.
Well, I am reminded of that great song by the Talking Heads, Same as It Ever Was. I mean, if you talk about grift, all you need to look at is the major legislation that Bill Clinton signed, repealing Glass-Steagall, and then in his lame duck session in December 2020, deregulating complex financial instruments. And then you watch as he left the White House on January 20th, 2001, and set up shop in Harlem, New York, just north of Wall Street, right? He set up shop in Harlem, New York. He's not from New York. Hillary's not from New York, right? And what did Wall Street do? They thanked Bill Clinton by funding the Clinton Global Initiative. And then they funded Hillary's campaign for the US Senate in 2002. So she became the senator from New York. This is how the grift works. It has always been this way. The idea that the only difference between Trump is that he is transparent, that you see how the sausage is made. He could care less. But the thing is, he's always been this way.
I wouldn't call it transparency. I mean, you can't believe a word that comes out of his
He's just not hiding.
He doesn't know how to hide it.
He doesn't know how to hide.
He's not hiding it. I'm not saying he's intentional. I'm just saying it's obvious what he's doing.
I don't think transparency is a good thing as much as it is showing how that he's honest and open.
No, I'm not trying to say he's honest. I'm just saying he's making it impossible for us not to see that it's a scam. He's making but the problem is it's always been a scam. The difference between the establishment politicians is that they cover it up better. It is not that they are not scamming. It is not that they're not exploiting. It is not that they're not killing foreign leaders and taking oil. It is not that. They are doing the same thing. It's just that he's doing it in a way that everyone can see it and no one can deny it. And everyone is appalled as if they realize that there's gambling going on in this casino. That's what I'm talking about, the grift. Yeah, it is a grift what he's doing, but you cannot look at what Bill Clinton did and say that's not grift. That's exactly what it is.
Oh, it's all grifting.
I don't want to
go ahead, Beth.
Well, I was just I've never seen Clinton with an ice cube maker, like of a mold of Clinton's head. And there is a YouTube video going around of a woman who is so excited that she bought this Trump ice cube head. Like, seriously, what does this guy not sell? Like Trump steaks, there's so much crap that he has out there selling. Like, it's just, yeah, I get it's his name, but I'm just saying, I've never seen a Bill Clinton ice cube. I'm just saying.
Don't understand what the difference is. What I'm trying to say is Bill Clinton, because he presented very well, right? You couldn't tell the grift. That is the best con job, is when you love the con artists. Clinton he left office extremely popular. But what I'm saying is the proof is in the pudding. He is the one who repealed FDR's principal financial regulation, which saved the banking industry. That is what allowed too big to fail to occur, right? He was the one who deregulated all the financial instruments. This is stuff Wall Street wanted from every Republican president, and the Republican presidents weren't able to do it. And it took a Democrat to unwind the New Deal. It was Bill Clinton. And then he went to New York, the place where he doesn't live, the place that he's not from, and he got paid. We can see it. It's all public record. That is the grift, right? Okay, because Wall Street made billions, maybe trillions out of the deregulation that Bill Clinton did. Okay, so what I'm trying to say here is just because it looks all nice, Obama is so professorial and stuff like that, and you can't see how they're robbing us, right? Does not mean that they haven't been robbing us. And that you look at Trump and it's so obvious. He is a carnival barker. He is Pulp Fiction. He is
But,
a
I
complete
think
train
the
wreck.
negative part of this transparency, and this kind of goes back to what Tricky was saying about his fear with the Democrats possibly, taking the House, maybe even, I don't think it'll happen, possibly the Senate, is that it's like what you're calling transparency, that the fact that Trump has put it out in the open. And I agree. Yes, it always did exist. But at least when it was required that you had to try to hide it, that in itself at least limited it to some extent. If it's so out there and Trump does always do that, he throws it out there because, hey, if everyone could see it, obviously can't be wrong. But if that becomes the new standard, if it doesn't even require you trying to hide it, won't that make it twice as bad? Because
Absolutely.
now it's so easy to do this, we don't even have to try to hide it. Now we just accept that everyone does it, and so now it'll be worse because now it doesn't even require you to try to make it look good. I think that's kind of
I disagree.
It's even, let me just tell you, let me just
look
give
at.
my
Hold it. Let me respond to Charlie. Take a look at what Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, said at Davos. Okay, he said the rules-based order. We all knew the rules-based order was bullshit, right? This is the Prime Minister of Canada, but we were benefiting from the United States imposing rules for their friends and having a different set of rules for people that they didn't like. We all knew that it was bullshit, but we benefited from it, so we went along with it. Well, what Trump has done, and this is what Carney was saying, is he's made it naked that this is America first. We're just going to do what we're going to do, and that means we're going to shake you down too, right? And what that has caused our allies to do is totally reassess. And what I'm saying to you here is no, after Trump, we're not going to be able to do what we used to do. We're not. We're going to have to negotiate with our own allies and the people that we've made adversaries from, but not from a position of dominance. That's been the benefit we've had for almost 40 years, a position of dominance, right? Now we're going to be a nation amongst nations. Now, as an American, I can say we have a tremendous amount of resource and natural power that will not go away. We will be okay, but we will not be the unitary superpower, the hegemon anymore. And therefore, we're going to have to make deals that work for the other side, the person that we're making the deals with, unlike the way we've been doing it. And to me, I think that's a good thing. That is a good thing. It is an honest relationship. So he's not doing this out of merit. He's an idiot. I agree with that. When I say an idiot, not because he's stupid, but because he's the ultimate narcissist. He's not doing this for our benefit. He's still doing it for his benefit, right? But the net effect of how he's doing things is destroying the way the establishment did business.
so let me
And that is a good thing.
So let me unpack and generalize and analogize. Let me do what I do often. Okay, so first of all, the position of dominance isn't exactly what it's all chalked up to be. That's like I pointed out with the Obamacare
Agreed.
discussions and negotiations. Many Democrats said, I wish we didn't have this power in the House and the Senate. We could finally come to an agreement because now all these Democrats feel like they want everything and they're in a position to get it all. So the position of dominance isn't all what it's chalked up to be. As far as this, making it clear I'm as dishonest as it gets, making it clear I have no regard for the law. It all started in a debate when Trump was challenged on the notion of not paying taxes. And he literally stated, I don't pay taxes because I'm smart. Now, the polar opposite of that was Mitt Romney. When he was taxed about his tax-paying gravitas, he dodged and weaved and said and didn't. And so there's been such a low bar for politicians that the lunatic who says, I did it all wrong, including grabbing women by the pussy, people loved him. People revered him. It's the same thing with Obama. Obama said the Unger House, which is basically a building in the Cayman Islands that houses 60,000 corporate headquarters for tax evasion. He said it's the most corrupt thing I've ever seen in my life. And then he nominated Timothy Geithner and Jack Lew to run the Treasury Department back to back. Two foxes watching the hen house. He was another one that said, I'm better than this. And came into office and made it clear he's worse than the rest. And the whole Clinton thing, leaving office and saying, I'm leaving you with $12 trillion in surpluses. And everybody's like, are you a moron? In order for these $12 trillion to come to fruition, the economy has to stay this strong for so many years. Our economy has enormous gyrations, spastic gyrations. We're not going to have this kind of growth. You can't promise $12 billion in surpluses. The tax revenue won't return that. Well, it's the same thing as Trump getting on the State of the Union address and saying, I got $12 trillion in commitments to investments in America. But no one's seen a single brick being laid yet. No one's seen a building being built. But these $12 trillion of foreign investment all across America is happening. Where? Just show me one project. Show me one $30 million project that I'll believe $12 trillion will come to fruition. There's not a single, but Trump makes it clear. I'm a bullshitter. I've always been a bullshitter. I sold buildings on the premise that they were 95% sold when in fact they hadn't even reached 70% sold. I made billions of dollars doing it. I encourage my kids to do it. They do it better than me in a lot of respects. And this is what we're up against. It's like the bar is so low. We can't blame Trump for the race to the bottom. The bottom was hit before he got here. He just said, I'm proud to be a part of the bottom.
Yeah. And you ask about what's going to happen after this next step here with this proposed blockade and, where the economy is at. I mean, just going in terms, you're talking about growth. This is something that I read for the second time, even more disbelief than the first time, and it added another level to it. But, the first 9 months of 2005, 37 to 40% of our entire GDP, what it is, 37 to 40% was AI tech centers. That was 39 to 40% of our entire GDP for the first nine months of 2025. Of that, 75% of that was buying exports, mostly chips from Taiwan. So we've had effective negative growth for almost 3 years now. It's been hidden. It's been hidden by the fact that all this money is being pumped into AI, but it's complete BS. It's nothing to stand on. And so if you add in this manufactured energy crisis, which it absolutely is, right? It's a war of choice that we went in there, and now we're going to have this energy crisis on top of an economy that was already a complete facade. It's going to be really bad. And it doesn't matter what happens in the midterms. The next leader, it's going to be an absolute cleanup job.
That's typical. That's typical. I mean, it's been like that since.
Yeah.
I mean, you get a Democrat in, and then things seem to be okay, and then you have a Republican that just completely crushes everything and turns it to shit, and then we have to get another Democrat in to clean it up. Yeah,
Stephen A. Smith is going to have a tough job. So.
Do you all think? So let me ask you a question. Okay, the midterms look like it's going to be a train wreck for the Republicans, and rightfully so. Okay.
Do you think they're going to lose this? Because I don't think that's going to happen.
Right. No, I don't know. This is the hype.
The hype's there, but it's going to be a train wreck. I would say Lindsey Graham might not get reelected, and I would say Mitch McConnell may not get reelected. That does not bring you to a loss of the Senate.
Is McConnell running again?
McConnell's not running.
No, I was going to say he's done.
Oh, did he say he's not running? Okay.
No, he's so old. He's already losing his mind.
Yeah, he's very sick.
Okay.
Susan Collins may finally lose.
Yes.
Susan Collins may lose, and
I think Roy Cooper's a lock in North Carolina. I don't think that's even a question. But there's still so many. There's so many Senate seats that were like 30 to 40 points Trump in the last election that they would need to overcome, and I just don't think.
Well, they are coming
close,
up,
but I don't think they're going to get the Senate.
So let's split the difference, and let's say that the House falls, the Democrats take control of the House, and the Senate stays with the Republicans. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that effectively means
that go nowhere is what we'll get.
Yeah, that a bunch of investigations. He will be impeached.
That go nowhere.
He'll be impeached again, and it'll die in
God,
the Senate.
I hope not. I've got to believe. My hope of that. I've got to believe cooler heads will prevail, or just relatively intelligent heads will prevail. Be like, do not go the fucking impeachment route again. Even if they get the Senate,
I couldn't agree.
Even if they get the Senate, like, don't do it.
If the Democrats pull off and get the Senate also, then I do think you will have the first impeachment trial in the Senate. Now, grab your popcorn because that
Well,
will
let's
be good.
be clear. It will be an unsuccessful impeachment trial because it takes 60 senators. So if the
Yeah.
Democrats prevail in the Senate, they will be at 51 at best.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
all
agree.
I'm saying here is I agree with you, Coach, in the fact that it is still dubious. But now you have, I mean, there will be a full trial. It will come to the
Yeah.
Senate floor. It will be debated, and all the impeachments died before it came to the Senate floor. So you never got the trial, right? And this is a first in U.S. history. We haven't had, in a modern context, an actual impeachment trial.
And what would the articles even be? I mean, my God, how do you choose one? I mean, it's
War
so
crimes for sure, I think.
War crimes
they'll-
will be the one.
They'll have like a bunch of unrelated ones, and they'll just try to, like
Probably.
flood the zone with so many of their grievances. And it'll just be an absolute disaster.
Well, if I was the authoritarian of Democrats and we did have 51 seats in the Senate, I would say there will be no impeachment trial. Let's just put that aside because it's a circus that will just show us to be circus carnival barkers, as Kevin says. Let's not do that. Let's be glad we hamstringed the judicial nominations because now he can't make Pam Bondi the next Supreme Court justice with control of this. And let's just call that a success story in and of itself. But Democrats will go down the route, of course, impeaching him and then saying we have this grandiose success story. We're bringing it to trial now in the Senate.
One thing I think will definitely happen if they get the Senate, and I don't think this is a good thing. I'm not saying it is in any way, but I'm almost certain it would happen, is that either or both of Alito and Thomas will retire. Trump will try to bring someone up as an appointee, and the Senate will not put anyone out there. And it'll become a new thing that the only way you can put someone on the Supreme Court is if you have both the White House and the Senate. And that'll become the new thing.
That's not a new thing, really, because they
it's important.
What's his name? Garland.
Yes. The Republicans are the ones who established that. It was Mitch McConnell and the Republicans in the Senate.
And he said it was the proudest moment in his political career that what was his name? Merrick Garland.
Yeah.
Merrick Garland.
They blocked him. And so that's not a new thing. But
no, but I'm saying that was 9 months. The Democrats will make the new thing. That'll be 2 years of that. And it's
I think the nomination expires. Like Merrick Garland's nomination expired. That was the whole notion of the thing.
No, I don't think he even got a vote. They didn't.
No,
even
he didn't. He did not get a vote. Didn't bring it to a vote. His nomination.
They wouldn't bring it to a vote.
Yeah.
And the thing about it,
that'll be the only way to sit a Supreme Court justice going forward.
It would be interesting because, quite frankly, the fact that we didn't sue the Senate, this is a constitutional question. Whether the Senate, whether advising consent gives the Senate the authority to withhold consent. It's one thing you just vote them down. Yeah, the Senate doesn't have to agree, right? But you have to vote. That's what the Republicans established, is that we're not even going to bring this to a vote. And I don't think that's constitutional. I think that the president could sue the Senate and take that to the Supreme Court on an expedited. And Trump is that kind of ego. I think that was a failure of Obama. He should have challenged the Senate.
Well, it was a failure of Obama, and Trump would do it exactly the opposite way. But the fact of the matter is, Obama was advised not to go that route because they were not thrilled with the nomination.
And that's fine. And that's right. And no, so I'm not. It's not a critique. I'm just saying, in the balance of presidential power, you are talking about an absolutist in Trump. And so absolutely his advisor will be telling him, oh, yes, that's questionable whether that's constitutional. And that would be the irony of the Republican Party establishing that the executive you cannot stuff a nomination by not even voting for it. But so be it. And I do think the Supreme Court would affirm that they cannot simply not vote. They could say no. They have to make a determination. They cannot ignore the president's nominee and refuse to bring it in. And so, but that's one thing. Okay, what do you all think that Trump, however it happens, will Trump serve out the 2 years, the 2.5 years?
Go by the Carville, the James Carville theory that he'll just.
I'm not suggesting 25th Amendment.
And just quit.
I'm not suggesting 25th Amendment. I'm not suggesting
impeachment.
I'm not suggesting walking away. I'm just saying, however it happens, what is your gut feel based on? I mean, this is clearly a train wreck, right? What is your gut feel
No,
of whether or
that's
not?
I could see that James Carville, he's been making this prediction for a while now, that if Trump, especially if he loses both the House and the Senate, that he will just find a way to say, you know what, I'm abdicating being president. I'm going home. You go, JD, you take over. I quit. This sucks. It's no fun. I can't do anything. I could definitely see him doing that.
I could see him doing
You
that.
think he
And
would
you know
decide
why?
like
I'm just
Nixon?
gonna go.
I couldn't see him doing that.
I could see him doing it because I saw Pope Benedict do it. He just no one steps away from the Popehood, and this is a time and place in the world where it's just like, you know what, this is best for me.
I don't think Trump's ego would let him walk away.
Because
He
he
can go,
can
he
resign
can
like
go run to
Nixon
be
did.
president of Venezuela.
I don't think the only thing I think Trump walks away from is this war. I think somehow,
He's walking away from. I agree with you, Beth.
I think
He's
he just
walking
wants
away.
it to go away as quickly as possible.
Well, he's
I
gotta-
think he really doesn't know how to fix this. And I think that's why this has been on the table for a long time. That's why no other presidents would take it on. They knew that there was going to be a shit pickle that we couldn't get out of, and they,
Yeah. I mean, everyone has predicted this, especially this, handicapping using the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, we've been talking about that. You could have asked a 22-year-old me this, almost 30 plus years ago, and I would have been like, well, the first thing's going to happen is they're going to close the Strait of Hormuz.
Mhm.
I mean, that's been such common knowledge of anyone who follows geopolitics even a little tiny bit. And, of course, then that's exactly what happened.
That's their power. That's their umbilical cord. They cut the umbilical cord right there. And the fact of the matter is, walking away, he's got the best of the Secretary of War to do it. He's a media guy. He'll paint this incredible narrative. He'll get on with his big hoo-wah and talk about all the things we succeeded, the bunker busting bombs that eliminated all their missiles.
But do you think that they turn their attention to Cuba, or they just stop?
Yeah, I think there's something else in the cards.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think this is going to take a lot longer than it. I don't think maybe he does actually. I mean, maybe he does. The best thing that Trump does is move on. Let's go. This is bad. Let's take Cuba. I don't know, but he's going to get this out of the way as quickly as he can.
On the Cuba front, take a look at the fact that Russia is supplying Cuba, and we're not stopping them. They are supplying that. Yes. Okay. They are supplying Cuba.
We can't even get our own.
They are supporting Cuba. So what are we going to do there? Because are we really going to try to go to war with Russia? Right.
No.
I mean, it's so directly. I'm just no. I mean, so I don't. The Cuba is a nonsense thing. Another train wreck waiting to happen. What are we fighting for there? I mean, at what point are we going to stop imposing Cuba? What do we expect of them other than to be an absolute enemy when we have continued to have them under blockade, under economic sanction?
Tax revenue.
Yeah, I mean, so.
No,
yeah.
I truly believe that the only reason Trump looks at like Canada and Greenland other than their resources is for tax revenue.
Right.
Yeah. And so,
right.
Now, so this rounded out. Okay, Coach and Beth. So, do you think? Okay, Charlie says he's going to walk away. I love the idea. He's, What do you think, Beth? Do you think he's going to serve out the full
I think
term?
he's going to serve out. Yeah, I think he's going to serve out his term. I don't think he's going to walk away. I don't think his ego will allow him
to walk away. Coach.
I think he's going to walk away at some point. I think there's nothing left for him, especially after the midterm results. That's going to be a shot to his ego. What's his name said it? Michael Cohen said it. If he can't stand losing,
as long as he can find a way to paint himself either as the victor or even better as the victim.
Right.
If he can find a way to paint himself as the victim and walk away as a martyr, if he can do that to a way that satisfies his ego's need, I think he will.
I think he will, exactly. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to protect himself as the victim, to present himself as the victim.
Oh, he'll be the victim, no doubt. Absolutely.
I think that'll be his talking point the rest of his life. That everybody
2018
betrayed him.
In that respect, one of the tells are going to be the fact that he is not going to be working to get the majority. He's not going to be working to build the Republican Party and win the midterms. Watch. I believe he's at war with his own Republican Party in the Congress because
I
they're
agree.
not giving him the tariff relief that he wanted, right? And so,
Well, watch.
so
Especially
then,
if Massey ends up holding that primary, that's really it, I think. For all the money that they poured into that, I think if Massey, and it looks like he's going to,
And
so
he's
if
going
Massey
to.
staves off that primary, I think that'll finally be like, all right, for Trump, he'd be like, well, I'm done.
Yeah.
that's what I
About the
agree. I
Republican
mean,
Party altogether. I
Yeah.
can't wield the power the way I could before. And it's not my fault. They just
Oh, it's
all
never his.
capitulated. And again, he'll be able to play the victim role in that.
I don't know.
Yes,
I
no
see a
doubt.
cabinet change. I think he fires everybody in his cabinet and hires somebody else, and then and plays the victim. I don't think he'll walk away. But I mean,
And that's
I've been wrong
normal.
before.
I
I
agree
think
with
he's
you,
gonna
Beth.
walk
That's
away.
normal to rotate the cabinet. Of course, who the hell wants to go in there? I mean, you talk about some flunkies.
No, there's a lot of people.
One of
that
those
take
cabinet
jobs.
meetings. Oh
There's
my
a lot.
God. All those people in those cabinet meetings, all those recorded fake cabinet meetings are going to be around forever. For any future they want in politics, they're always going to be able to go back to one of those just stream of ass kissing, the pathetic
I
show of
mean,
whatever those things are. They're certainly not
how
cabinet
many knee pads were underneath that long desk
Oh.
and that long table?
Or what's it? I mean, actually, maybe the peak of it now is just this last week with Todd Blanche. I'll say, thank you, sure, I love you.
Yes. I
Oh.
mean, I'm serious. I'm holding back the
Love you.
bile. I'm
Well,
trying not to cover my
I would say,
screen.
thank you,
with-
sir, I love you.
Well, just think about that. To think that there's a shortage of people that'll take the positions after cabinet members either get fired or voluntarily leave. I mean, Todd Blanche, she took. I mean, who wants to pick up the pieces after Pam Bondi?
Todd Blanche does. And he'll say, I love you for it.
And then to say, and you've even got Joe Rogan now saying the whole Iran war was to play cover for the Epstein files. I mean, and Todd Blanche said, I'll take the job. I mean, he should have had the job versus Pam Bondi. Forget about take the job after her. I mean, people have no shame. He found the right. There's a million people out there that have no
We're gonna say
shame.
there's
Agreed,
plenty
yeah.
of people ready in line, ready to jump right in there.
Right. There's no
And
shortage.
let's supply.
I mean, look at Marco Rubio. I mean, I would have quit. He's in a press conference and Pete Hegseth just gets to the podium and starts talking. It's like, he's the Secretary of State. Let him at least finish his sentence for crying out loud. I mean, Jesus Christ, who wants to hear from Pete Hegseth to begin with? What was his, yeah, great job, Pete. Thanks. Next time, don't step on my brand new shod shoes when you do it. I mean, come on, they have no shame. They're just, there's nothing in it for them other than a paycheck. I mean, I'd rather starve than work for this idiot.
But hey, folks, I'm going to have to wrap it up.
All right, guys, it's been incredible.
Yeah. And
All right,
any
guys.
final thoughts? Did we do a whirlwind final thought before we put a bow on this one?
Pray.
Yeah, I see
Pray,
a tremendous
pray.
amount of I see a
Pray.
tremendous amount of pressure and crap coming in the next week or so.
Oh my God.
Big downfall.
It did. I just think that, yes, I think that we can expect the oil markets to blow up on Monday morning over this blockade. I think that we're going to have to back down because I don't think the world is going to come down on Iran. Because again, the reason why we are the aggressor. If Iran was wrong, if there was even meritoriously possibly wrong, then I think you would have a lot of influence in putting the pressure on Iran. But Iran is the actual victim here, and so no, I think we're going to have to back down. I doubt seriously the blockade lasts by the time we do our next interview, our next podcast for the Political No Brainer podcast. So I will put that is my prediction that this blockade won't last the 2 weeks before we get together again, and hopefully
So my final words are: he's got the best guy to do the whole. We're pulling out, and we accomplished everything. Let Pete Hegseth do the press conference. We're pulling out, and then behind the scenes, I'll tell Israel, just like I said, we'll give you everything you need to continue to fight. But we're out. We're pulling our ships back. We're pulling our planes back. And we'll give you all the weapons in the world you need to do what you want to do. And like I said, that just decimates any business logic. When in fact, Israel is at 60% to national jet ratio to their GDP, and we're at 100%, 20%. But we're going to pay for them to continue on. But I believe within 2 to 3 weeks, Pete Hegseth is going to say, we accomplished everything and we're done. We're coming home.
Didn't we already say that? Didn't we already come out and
of
say
course we did.
we've already, yeah.
Yes,
one
somebody
reason-
said that.
But he's already
Some-
presented it. I'm just saying the one finale, the one press conference finale, and we're done. We're really going to come home. And I hope so. God willing, that's just what happens. 'Cause
Yeah,
if we
agreed.
carry on this charade for another year or two, I mean, how long can Americans, like Kevin said, can't afford rent, can't afford food, can't afford
Yeah, it's
prescription. And now you're going to $6 and $7 and $8 a gallon of gas. You won't be able to afford to go to work at some of the rates of pay people are receiving at this point.
Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to change much. Unfortunately, I think gas is going to stay high.
I don't think it's going to go
down.
down. You know, I always say
Yeah.
cutbacks don't come back and prices don't come down.
I mean, I think we're just now seeing some of the increases and upticks in prices now from just this recent, oil's hit.
Well, sure, like fuel is the
Yeah,
is the catalyst of every cost. I mean, every Walmart truck you see on I-95 is paying those fuel prices, and that's going to result in a higher grocery price.
Yeah, and there's an additional tax, 8-10% just to ship something, So yeah, it's gonna hit. I think it's gonna hit a lot harder than we anticipated.
Killing
But I
me
guess
right
we'll see.
now. I just put gas in the 2 cars because my wife said I got to go fill up my car, so I did both, one after the other. I'm out $120.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Two cars, that's not bad.
Just start crying at the Stop it. Stop
Well,
it.
the first car was sticker shock. The second car was heart wrenching. I'm like, well, I have nothing left for a burger now.
Wait, there was a shakedown, coach. And like, what you got in your pocket? Just to get some gas.
I bet my son's gonna hit me up for gas money before I leave the house. It's $150 for gas today.
That's why I walk and take the train, my friends.
There we go. I agree with you,
All right, guys,
Charlie.
it's been great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
guys.
It's been a pleasure. I'll talk to you,
Yeah.
in 2 weeks. It'll be 2 weeks. I guarantee it, because we have so much to talk about. Thanks, guys.
We will.
Yeah, we never
Coach, I'll
got to
see
talk
you
about
on
the
Tuesday.
psychedelics, although it would be nice to take a trip.
Oh,
We're gonna
can you
do the
imagine
next
all
one.
4 of us dropping troops before this.
Everyone just
Just to get out of this reality.
I am Coach Trippy,
That's right. I'll move it with that name. All right, guys.
Now
I'll
the
take
rest
a
of the
stand.
story comes out.
See
Take
you
care,
later.
everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.